It is very good news for the Canberra market in particular. From the start of the pandemic, we have seen quite different conditions on realestate.com.au with regards to what's been happening with search, with inquiry, with new development. Canberra's the only market that has seen a month-on-month increase in house prices. So it's, depending on whether you're a buyer or seller in Canberra or a developer, it is very good news, and things are looking quite different compared to the rest of Australia.
And what about WA? Are they trending in a similar way?
Yeah, WA is also doing really, really well. I mean, when we have a look at the two markets that have defied the COVID-19 property downturn, those are the two that are looking quite different. So WA very much driven by iron ore particularly. We've seen some really record levels of iron ore exports going into China. BHP announced a couple of weeks ago of how strong conditions were there. Iron ore is now at record level pricing. We've got gold at record level pricing. So the WA economy is looking quite different, and that obviously flows through to property.
You've got a lot of interesting statistics on retirement living. Where would we like to retire, Nerida?
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, retirement living is very, very different from aged care. So, obviously the aged care sector is going through incredible challenges at the moment. There's a Royal Commission on. We've got incredible levels of COVID infection. But retirement living is where people move typically 55 years plus. They are areas that people live not in aged care type conditions, but live more in a community type environment. At the moment, we are seeing quite a pickup in activity, which is interesting. I mean, it's quite interesting to see that the types of communities that people are interested do tend to be in blue chip locations. We've got quite high levels of search happening in places like Neutral Bay, also in locations such as Wahroonga on Sydney's North Shore. So it's, we're not seeing a tree change or a sea change occur at the moment. It does look like people are wanting to age in place, so sell the family home and downsize into these areas. But it is quite an interesting trend that we're seeing at the moment.
Do you think we could see an increase in retirement living in the next 10, 20 years and onwards?
Yeah, look, it is likely. I mean, we are an ageing population, and I think one of the things people do like to have the support nearby. And on one hand, moving from the family home straight into aged care is quite confronting for people. But moving into retirement living does provide a level of support that you may not otherwise get if you live at home.
And I also wanted to ask you, Nerida, this week the ATO admitted no eligibility checks were made on the millions of Australians that dipped into their super account. Many people putting their $20,000, for example, into offset accounts and their mortgages. What is the ATO going to do about this, and will there be any fines at all?
Yeah, look, we're not sure exactly what they'll do. I mean, it has been interesting. I was talking to our Smartline mortgage broking team, and they said that it was unlikely that anyone would get a new mortgage if they dipped into their superannuation balances, because banks are looking very closely at where deposits are coming from at the moment. It is likely that people would be, or potentially would be, pulling money out of super and putting it into an offset account. I think a lot of people are very nervous at the moment. We saw recently a survey from Fidelity which said a quarter of Australians were quite keen to dip into their superannuation. So it's, I think for a lot of people, particularly younger people, it's, retirement is such a long way away. But right now, a lot of people feel like they do need access to their cash. So very challenging for the superannuation industry with so many pulling out money. I do think the ATO will be looking far more closely going forward as to what's been happening.
Yeah, certainly challenging times across the world indeed. Thank you very much, Nerida Conisbee, Chief Economist at REA Group. See you next week.
See you then.